All right, everyone, welcome back to Blades and Blasters Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition campaign um, called Legends of Arcanus. We've had an interlude in between chapter 5 and 6, but this is chapter 6 of this tale, if you like what you see here. Besides 5e, we have lots and lots of different games, 20-something systems up to this point. And we post videos every day, so please subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. But without further ado, we're going to get started here. Even in the summer, nights in the north can be biting and cold and dangerous. For after the sun sets, the temperature drops and creatures roam the gloaming hills and plains and forests in search of blood. But there are beasts more dangerous than wild animals in Arcanus. In the north, some of the most dangerous creatures are human. And it is now, we found, Count von Severus again upon the parapets of the Vestberg. A night ago, a frantic messenger arrived bearing news of a great inferno near Pinebreak Peak and supernatural goings-on. Von Severus frowned at first, but then he thought. He thought for a while, and a smile slithered across his face in the shadows of the setting sun. With this new trouble between the Vestberg and Fürstenfeld, it's likely the old king will not have time to stab him in the back. It does not solve his problem, however. He lacks men. Indeed, the Conventus forces have already started sending sorties to probe for weaknesses in the Vestberg's defenses. Count von Severus continued to stand like a tower, his mind of metal and wheels working plans and stratagems. Then the smile disappeared from his face, and was replaced by a furrowed frown that was as unforgiving as the battlements of the Vestberg itself. He called for a messenger. "You there, lad? Go now. Go down to the deepest dungeons and find me that mad priest I imprisoned last winter. I have need of his services." So as the scene changes, the camera descends over a dense forest with a ribbon of road running through it. The moon is high in the sky. The clouds are dense, floating across the moon and casting eerie shadows over the forest. As the camera moves closer and closer to the ground, you can see in this forest hundreds, if not thousands, of horses hitched to trees. And there are some tents as well, but while you might expect thousands of tents to go along with the horses, you maybe only see a few dozen men and women who slunk back after the defeat at Mydfeld. Most notably amongst them, Lord Julius Terrask, Lord Tarban Giant's Blood, his knight Sir Carl, and Foliana Gredi. You can hear the neighing of the horses as they kind of snort in the night, and they're restless after being bested in battle. You can tell me what you do. In the shadows still slinks one demon who seemed to have survived the massacre. You know this demon is Simones the Servant, and, well, in the past you haven't been too fond of him. He's going around the outskirts of the camp, whispering words of gloom and doom. I'll let you take it away.
Well, Foliana has been watching for an opportune time to just take her horse and split. Um, but she doesn't want to be challenged or called out on it. So she's kind of playing along for now, and she's curious to see what becomes of this shattered army. So she's just watching quietly and saying little unless she's spoken to, making the odd insult here and there.
Yeah, as you kind of walk in to and fro in the camp, there are a few survivors of the massacre, and they kind of look at you, and their eyes kind of are averted and go back to the mossy ground, or back into their bowl of gruel that they're eating.
Yeah, Foliana will just sneer at the bowls of gruel as fitting for these low creatures.
You hear somebody kind of behind you, and a voice goes, "Lady Elf, why do you sit in judgment upon these men? Did they not fight bravely? Although most of them died."
Most of these men ran bravely or turned their horses and ran bravely.
Well, look no farther than this camp's leader, and kind of casts his gaze over towards one of the tents that is known to be Lord Terrask's. His will was weak. He was never a proper vessel for Lord Zorul the Triumphant.
Then why did he choose him?
Well, he needed to be freed. And now Zorul no doubt burns and builds and makes plans to expand his new kingdom.
His kingdom. She gestures around and says, "A kingdom of wood and trees," which for an elf perhaps would be sufficient, but I suspect he's not going to be satisfied.
Oh no, do not mistake me. I do not count myself among the chosen. I was cast away with a lot of you. Kind of slithers around. He has the body of a snake and the kind of the head, torso of a man, and face of a snake, and kind of circumvents Foliana as he slithers. You can hear a sss.
Careful, or I might trod you underfoot by accident.
Oh, don't mind me, Lady Elf. I'll just make my way into the shadows. This food of men is not stern enough stuff for me.
Foliana just smirks and turns. She does not enjoy the serpent man.
And you see the
trust him at all. Mm-hmm.
And the shrubbery just kind of rustle as he disappears out of the ring of the camp lights of the firelit. And Lord Terrask and Giant's Blood, what are you up to?
Tarbin is in his usual foul spirits, stomping around the camp, occasionally cuffing one of the survivors. Tastes some of the gruel, throws it at one of them. "This isn't fit for consumption. Carl, go kill something."
Carl's at your side. He has his helmet off, but you can hear the clank of his plate armor as he stamps through the dark woods. "Yes, my lord. What would you have me slay? Man or beast?" And he kind of looks at the guy that you threw the gruel at, and then looks at the horse nearby.
Tarbin pokes the guy with the gruel. "Not enough meat. Kill the horse."
Yes, my lord. And just his demeanor changes and he takes the horse and, oh, come here, boy. Attaboy, attaboy. Let's go over here. Over here to the clearing. There's some nice clover over here, boy. And then you hear, and a thud. And all the shadows you hear. Oh, you'll be butchered soon, my lord. Tell the men that meat's back on the menu.
Good. Tarvin stomps over to a fire, flops himself down, waits for Carl to bring meat.
Yeah, you hear from the clearing just wet sounds, and every once in a while there's kind of a hard ringing sound as his probably has a big broad-bladed knife as it kind of cuts through bone. You can hear him working. And Julius.
Julius would be in his tent, a bit relaxed actually, with if there were any wines that he plundered from the stores of New Vanar, as it was called now. He'd be taking in a glass of it. He does have a travel bag with bare essentials laid aside. He too intends to steal away when the moment is right, but for now is keeping appearances as the leader of this army, as it is now, what's left of it. But he mostly keeps to himself and thinks on his next move after this. He feels oddly at ease with what happened. It was a shock at first, but now it made things clear for him. He has not looked troubled since they made camp.
And oddly, all three of you, since the battle, the presence of Zoral in your minds is quite dampened, almost as if he's forsaken you. Although that brand on your chest still burns brightly, and in your heart of hearts, if it came down to it, that terrible voice would rear its head again, and you would be tortured by its temptations and its whisperings. But Julius Terrask, while in his tent, he pops the cork on that vintage, and he would like to have one of his nice long stem glasses from Fürstenfeld, but he has to make do with a common man's mug, and he swishes the wine around the mug and takes a gulp of it, and a more familiar voice rises from the back of his skull, saying, "Drink as much as you want, Lord Terrask, but there will be no escape from your decisions."
Julius frowns, looking at the cup, and I am locked in a bargain I did not ask for in this regard.
That makes two of us, Lord Julius. I am not used to having company inside a man's skull. This Zorul, I find him repellent. I can nearly smell his brimstone. If only I had a body, I would smite him myself.
I would wish to be rid of him as well. What would you suggest we do then?
Do what you've always done, Lord Terrask. Use my wisdom and my guidance. Do I have your unwavering loyalty at this point?
Of course.
It means casting aside friends. It means sacrifice, but in the end, you know that I can promise you power, and it is not an empty promise. You kind of look at your hands and they glow with the power. It's the same type of thing as when you catch a bolt. It says, I've given you results, Lord Terrask. This demon of the ancient days, he's given you what? Slain horses? Slain men on the edge of rebellion?
I have nothing left to lose. What is it to throw away what little I have left?
Very well.
He will think on it, take a drink, and... Yes, I will give it up. As much as I need to get these results.
Very well. Then rid yourself of this army.
I intend to. Drinks his cup again. I had thought to come to the mage route.
Who?
Yes. I am prepared to leave. I intend to leave even tonight.
And with that, they're kind of on the walls of the tent where there are deep shadows in the corner of the tent that kind of gather in the gloom. They almost seem to coalesce, and it's certainly not a material being, but a shadowy presence that's almost too familiar with you. Kind of seems to coalesce, and he kind of sits down next to you. If you would chance to turn your head to the right, you would surely see nothing, but you sense this shadowy present next to you, the shadow self, and it says, "Tonight, will you go alone? Will you bring the mountain and the elf?"
I believe that our company and paths may part ways. Our goals were in alignment for a moment. Mountain, I know not what he was promised by Zarul, though I can wager a few guesses. None of it is good for me. The elf, her motives are a mystery. And if I cannot know someone's motives, I certainly can't trust them.
Very well. You will be all on your own, Julius. At least keep them till the time is right. You do not know when they will be useful.
Julius nods and goes back into his cup.
Yeah, that's a boy. Give all outward appearance of being remorseful. It may be that it serves you well in the end. And so the night kind of continues to pass, and the men are kind of start to fall asleep one by one. Of course, there are some sentries set about the camp, and Simonese is kind of slithering in the shadows, kind of keeping an eye out on things.
Foliana will go to Julius's tent before it gets too late, and she will say, just sort of in a matter-of-fact way, "I intend to go scouting at dawn. I may not be back for some time. We must be clear where the enemy is, what its disposition is, and if there's any forces coming against us." She's not really looking him in the eyes when she says it, though.
Yeah, Julius has known that Foliana's a bit trepidatious about this whole thing. Would I be able to see if she's lying about it?
I would say she's doing a pretty poor job of dissembling at this point.
Yeah, Foliana has a pretty high deception, and you have a pretty high, I would say, like, to detect lies. What do you think? Probably.
She's just not very she's just not very invested in this lie.
Mm-hmm.
It's more she's just sort of stating it as a matter of formality.
Mm-hmm.
but I think you would tell that there's something different about the way she's saying it. There's a certain kind of finality in the way she's speaking.
Julius will nod. I see. Well, have a drink with me then. One last time.
She looks at you with a little bit of surprise, but then she shrugs and walks over and says, "Is there anything left worth drinking?"
I'm sure that your tastes are probably far superior to the swill, but it's a vintage red from New Vanhar, as it's now called. Smile and pour a
We'll
glass.
see. I wonder how long that name will last.
Until the churches burn it to the ground and rebuild it, I'm sure.
I'm sure they'll give it some triumphant name to mark our defeat.
Demon's Rest, perhaps? Or
That's a good name for it.
we'll pass her the cup. You're a better liar than that, Foliana, but I understand. And he will drink his glass.
It's pretty obvious she's suddenly kind of realizing how poorly she, lied. And she just kind of chuckles a little bit and says, "We are commanders of a broken army. There's little here for us now. And I suppose, as they say, we must deal with our demons, or our demon in this case."
Demons, in my case. Glass.
Yes, you've had practice, apparently. This is all very new to me. I can't say I like it much.
There were days I wondered, but in the end I got what I asked for with the first deal. But I understand, and if we're being further honest, was there really much that you had invested in this to begin with?
I got nothing that I wanted, nor the promise of anything that I want. Quite the contrary. I now feel that I'm a slave of this thing. I was deceived. Perhaps I deceived myself a bit.
I would not be too harsh on yourself. There are very few men or women or anyone really who would challenge a demon in terms of will. It happens. That is why these deals exist.
I've always thought of such things as the province of weaker minds. I'm disappointed to find that I'm among them.
You would be hard-pressed to find a stronger mind than the devil. Pour a bit more into his glass.
His lies were weak and foolish. I should have seen through them.
But they spoke to you, didn't they? Promised you things you wanted?
There's only one thing I want. And I should have known that no deal with a demon would bring me that.
Well, there's little point in worrying about that now. It's about trying to figure out how to remove this from ourselves.
So, are you planning on a double eviction, or are you just going to try to remove the one?
He smiles. My old patron, of course he can stay. He has given me results, but no, I refer to the pretender, the deceiver, the one who has given us nothing, and has in fact taken more from us than he has given. I have
Do
nothing now.
Do you have any insights into how you might restore your inner balance?
I must go and visit my patron directly. I intend to leave the army, just as you are, and go and seek out his guidance in person.
In person? I was not aware that was possible.
It would be a poor patron that cannot assume some kind of physical form, but yes, in the flesh as it is.
That's odd. I've always found that the immaterial to be far stronger than the material.
Oh, he has a wide range of appearances. Is it important? But enough about his particulars. He should know how to deal with this problem. He says it will cost me. He smiles, but everything has a price.
Doesn't it just? Well, I wish you the best of luck in your exorcism, whatever form that takes. I suppose I must return to my people and throw myself on the mercy and wisdom of our wise ones. Perhaps they know of a way to undo what I've done.
Julius nods. Well,
So it will cost me my pride at the very least, and that is the one thing I do not wish to part with.
pride can be reclaimed, Foliana.
Not there ever again. My people do not forget such things.
Well, whatever they levy against you, I have seen you in action. You are tough enough to take it and become better for it.
You are kind to say so. She takes a sip. This really is quite awful, but I suppose I'm unfortunately getting a taste for it, having been out here for some time, away from our vineyards.
I don't think I've ever had elvish wine. Not once.
You would remember it if you had.
I have heard this is true. What recommendations do you have? Should I live long enough to find it, I guess?
Well, my family's is well known. I suggest you try the Gredi label.
I think I will. I think I will someday. The new Van Har Red is rather cool.
If you ever do make it out my way, I'll see that you are generously accommodated.
That's a kind thought. Drinks again.
So hopefully there'll only be 2 of you and not 3.
In all seriousness, Foliana, I know that I perhaps did not give the best impressions, but you were helpful in the time that we knew each other. I do wish you the best.
She looks at him and says, I'm not sure if I ought to wish you the best, since I do not know your intentions. But I certainly wish you all luck in being freed from this weight and chain about your necks. And with that, she'll put the wine down and just kind of nod at him and turn to go.
Julius will nod back, and he said, he'll look at her, and you shouldn't wait till morning. Don't waste your time. Go on your scouting mission whenever you wish. Morning, tonight, whenever.
Perhaps there is advantage to leaving now. Very well. Say goodbye to our little slithering friend for me once I'm gone.
If I have it my way, Foliana, he will not be alive after he hears the words.
I will not shed a tear. And she steps out and closes the flap behind her.
Foliana, as you exit the tent, you see in the center of the camp Tarbin Giant's blood, his monstrous hulking form outlined by flickering orange flames. By this point, he has nearly, the hind quarters of a horse in his mouth. And he's no
A
doubt
horse drumstick.
sucking the, licking his fingers as there are a few of the survivors kind of roasting some sort of meat over a spit. I don't know if you can tell what it is, but maybe you notice a hoof.
Foliana says, I see you've been hard at hunting, Lord Giant's blood.
Well, it was the horse or that fool.
Which fool? We are surrounded by them. I'm not sure we could name anyone here by anything else.
He waves around with the haunch of horse. Yes, I suppose they are in season. And he goes back to chewing on his horse.
She says, I am preparing to depart on a scouting mission to discern the disposition of our enemy and see if we are in any immediate danger. She says, I assume the army will remain put for at least a day, or do you have plans to move?
He looks up at that. No. Unless Lord Terrask has other plans, we will be here.
He did not say if he did, so I will assume this is the place I ought to return. She just kind of takes one last look at him and said, well, Lord Giant's blood, I wish you a good night then. And bon appetit, she says, right, with rather a curiously turned up nose.
He nods and sort of waves around his mouth full.
Foliana just rolls her eyes once her back is to him and walks away to prepare her belongings, such as they are, and mount up to leave.
So Foliana kind of leaves the circle of firelight, leaves Giant's blood behind, and Lord Terrask's tent. And what does she do then?
She gets her stuff. She's not in any big rush, not wanting to draw any attention to herself, but she's gathering up all of her things and then mounting her horse and probably actually, since it's dark, leading her horse away first to leave the wood and leave the army behind.
That happens, and as you pick your way through the trees, you see horses kind of asleep, just hundreds of horses and their riders kind of sleeping on the mossy ground. As they breathe, you can see jets of steam kind of coming from their nostrils, and you don't make a sound as you creep out of the camp. And as you
are all of the horses changed? Are they all sort of nightmarish things now.
No, these are the horses. These are the cavalry that Giant's Blood raised.
Okay.
Uh,
Are there any riderless horses? There must be if there's this many horses.
There are, because some of them got killed.
She probably could not help herself in rescuing at least a couple of these horses to lead behind her as well.
So you kind of creep forth, and there's a couple of men slumbering. You haven't seen Simonese for a while. Give me a stealth check at 15. Oh.
I have advantage, I think, still, right?
You probably would have advantage because of the darkness.
So should I roll again if I spend it? Or yeah, okay.
Oh, the inspiration, you mean? The
Yeah,
inspiration?
I mean, the inspiration.
Yeah, you can. Well, I would say, let's say it's dark, so I think you'd probably have advantage anyway, right? You're in the trees.
Okay, sure.
Hey,
There you go.
That's up to you.
So, as you take one of the horses, you're leading it through the trees. There's just one little copse left, and you're about to release the other one, and you hear ahead of you, and you see Simonese dart at some small animal in the dark, grab it, and you see this thing kind of raise up in the moonlight with what looks to be a rabbit in his teeth, and just slithers past you, not seeing. And you can grab the last horse if you want.
Okay. Or if she felt that maybe it was a little close call, she may just abandon the horse. She wouldn't want to risk it again.
Sure.
So, yeah, she'll just take the one that she grabbed. So she's got her own and one other lucky horse.
This horse will now forever hate you. He was almost free.
Well, I was going to get it, I think. Okay, never mind.
So you finally kind of head out amongst the trees, and as you kind of leave the camp, it's almost like a weight has been lifted from you, and there's a breeze coming from the west that blows your hair, and you get it's not even a glimpse, it's a shadow of a glimpse of that freedom that you were longing for. And what does it look like as you kind of make your way out?
It's still tainted. Everything's tainted for her now. So she's certainly relieved to be free of this, but she doesn't really have much to look forward to in her mind. It's all bad. There's no great outcome here for her. So she's fairly expressionless and kind of wooden in her emotions. And she's in no great hurry either. She's just being careful. I think probably at first, but as she gets a little further, something kind of takes over, and she does sort of feel that, like the freedom of youth on her horse when she was young, and probably rides hard for at least a little bit as whenever the sun is rising. But that will be short-lived as well. Eventually she'll have to stop. But I think her immediate goal is to try to find out what happened to Tarquel.
Perfect. All right, and Julius and Tarvin, how do you pass the rest of the night?
Julius will, at some point, checking occasionally outside to see people falling asleep, calling it at night. He will determine that is the right time to make his departure. Will put his bag to his horse. His unit had not suffered any casualties or many casualties, and he had retained his horse, so he puts his bag to the side of it as traveling. He will bring his horse near Giant's Blood if he is still awake at the fire and approach him. Lord Giant's Blood, he's still awake.
Yes, Lord Julius.
Well, good. He looks around. I have much on my mind. I'm going to take a bit of a stroll.
Tarvin's eyes narrow a little bit. Perhaps you'll meet the elf.
Oh, no. I intend to go not so far, not put myself in danger. I must be here again to recover, to try this once more, seek victory. I'll return. I'll be very, very close.
Have a care, my lord.
I will. You as well. Be always safe with Giant's Blood.
Aye. He takes a big drink of the terrible wine.
And with that, his intentions declared, Julius will go for a long walk.
You head out on your long walk in the moonlight, and as the sun rises and you start to make your way out of the firelight, it's a similar situation. About the perimeter of this camp, you see Simones, the servant, slithering. He already has some fur scattered up and down his scales of the neck from that rabbit, but he's in search of another. As you lead your horse down across a shallow stream, you kind of see him nearby, kind of looking underneath rocks, finding what's any sort of insect or grub or anything he can find to sate his appetite.
Julius looks at him and thinks on it for a long time, because there's a very large part of him that wants to kill this creature. Simones annoyed him often. He looks at him.
You're muted, Ghost.
There's a very, so Julius looks at Simones. There's a very large part of him that wants to kill this creature. Has been very annoying in camp and presumptuous in speaking with Julius. It's not something Julius is used to people acting that way to him, so he strongly considers killing him, but then he sees how pathetic of a creature this has been reduced to. Just crawling about and searching for grubs and eating bugs and trash, and he just thinks that his existence is punishment enough at this point. His pitiful existence, reduced from a great herald of a demon army to some foolish snake-like thing that wanders in the dark for food. And he spits on the ground and resolves to kill him if he ever crosses paths with him again.
And as you clip-clop across the stream, he's not really paying attention or looking for you. You just see him slither from rock to rock, and you hear the rustle of the leaves as he disappears into the undergrowth. And no doubt catches some small meal. Small woodland creature met a grisly end in the jaws of Simones. And you take off as well. Everybody's leaving. All right. So I guess the morning's going to come, and Tarvin's going to be by himself. I suppose.
I think I've been left holding the bag, Carl.
So yeah, the morning does come, and you can hear the birds in the trees toward Giant's Blood, and you can hear the cavalry kind of wrestling their horses, getting them ready. And customarily over the past 2 nights, or 2 mornings since the battle, Lord Terrask has shortly thereafter emerged from his tent, sometimes smelling a little bit of wine, sometimes not. But this morning doesn't come out.
Well, and after some time, then Tarbin and or Carl would go look for Julius. Upon discovering his absence, would search the area.
Why don't you give me?
Of course, at this point, suspecting
Yeah,
something has befallen him.
it'd be a pretty hard check, but like, why don't you give me like a survival at 16?
Alright. So, no.
Didn't show it.
Yeah,
I heard it. I heard it pop.
I heard somebody pop open. Yep. There was a banner on the top of Roll20 tonight. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Well, here, let me reload.
Yes.
I think it's just for Amazon S3, whatever it is.
Yeah. What does that even mean?
I think it's like a tablet or something.
Oh, okay. Did everybody else see the roll?
No.
No.
If nobody saw it. It didn't happen.
Raven saw it.
Did you whisper it or something?
No? No, that should have been... So let's try this again.
There it is.
Still not high enough.
Nope.
So yeah, unfortunately, you see some horse tracks, but they just get lost in all the other horse tracks and whatnot. It's almost as if Lord Terrask disappeared into the night. And what's more, you haven't heard from the elf either.
Well, then we will prepare the army to move. We will have Carl gather the 4 most loyal and or baddest asses of the bunch. And once the whole thing is moving and there's lots of confusion, we'll scarper off too.
Jesus Christ, I was asking for this. All right. And leaving Simone's behind.
He's now in charge.
Now in charge.
Bet they fight better for him than they did for us.
Yes.
So which directions are you guys all going then? Do you know general direction? Before
Headed for Buzzard's Roost.
Switch to Tarquel.
Mage route. Probably not on the road.
And Foliana.
Right up the road.
Same thing. Okay.
She's not really trying to conceal herself at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Over the course of her ride in the morning light, she's realized there's really no point in trying to be overly clever or deceptive. She's screwed up, and she's not seeing any real way that she can noodle her way out of this. So,
yeah, I don't think a rider would necessarily even stick out too bad. It'd probably stick out that you were an elf, but
well, she's fully expecting that if she's recognized, she might be captured.
Mm-hmm.
But she doesn't really. Well, so she's thinking maybe I want to. As long as she gets to Aemon, that's so her real goal is to get to Aemon so she can figure out what to do. But she's also wants to see if she can find out what became of Torkel. She kind of begrudgingly was growing a little fond of his brusque in uncouth manner. It was a little bit refreshing.
Absolutely. Okay, got it. Lightening the mood a little bit. This was around the same time, maybe a little bit earlier. The scene shifts, and you're kind of riding down or around here. You've left Fristenfeld, following the river towards Mydfeld, and you see Tarquel Tarlson on a horse. His face must change, lots of scars on it. And up ahead, circling him, dashing in and out of the white clouds, is a black raven. On one side of Tarquel is the elf known as Aemon Gilthonian, and just behind him is Friar Linden, clopping behind him. It's a beautiful day for a journey, Tarquel. You started afresh. Can you feel it in the air?
The wind is blowing. This is good. I like the feel of the wind.
Yes, freedom is never as sweet as if once you've lost it. Don't forget this feeling, my man.
I will try not to.
He
Roak, see if you can see anything. Look what is in front of us.
The raven kind of does a swan dive down and nearly clips into Torkel's shoulder before screaming skyward again and dashing into the white clouds. Friar pulls up to Tarquel and whispers to him, laying a hand on his shoulder. You are forced for good now, my man. Let this be a lesson learned, and do not forget the instructions of the king. He loves his son dearly, but, well, in this day and age, love may not conquer all. Lord Terrask's fate remains to be seen. And Tarquel, as he watches the raven scream skyward into the clouds, feels that freedom wash over him. What's more, he feels the weight of his wounds from the battle continue to be lifted. And Friar Linden is going to cast Cure Wounds. Nice. Ooh, 17.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. Yep. Cast it 3rd level. So he touches you, and you feel the weight of that battle, and the wounds in your chest and your bindings just seem to melt away.
Thank you, Friar.
It is not myself. It is the blessing of the architect that I carry, Tarquel Tarlson.
Well, then thank him for me. I know not how to do it properly.
As this happens, you see Aemon Gilthonian kind of dash on ahead, way up the road until he disappears. And Tarquel and the Friar travel the rest of the day towards Mydfeld into late afternoon and the evening. Tarquel not hearing back from the Raven as of yet. And the evening starts to fall as they reach Mydfeld again. And Aemon kind of returns and says to you, I have queried passers-by, village people. leftover soldiers from the battle. No one has heard of the remnants of the army or those of whom you seek. Where next, Torkel? Where next, Friar?
Do you wish to travel through the night? Then perhaps an inn.
Friar shrugs his shoulders.
Or perhaps a tree. That would do just as well.
Now, just assume stay outside and out of the sight of men, if it's all the same to you, Torkel.
As you see fit. As you see fit.
And that evening, the Raven returns to Tarquel and kind of alights on your shoulder and kind of starts to squawk a little bit. Can you give me an animal handling at 12?
Yes, I can.
Oh, that's pretty good. So, this bond you've made with the Raven is getting stronger by the day, and he tells you that a lone figure has been seen riding from the forest up the road to Mydfeld. It's a figure that's cloaked and is leading another horse.
Take me to it.
The bird kind of flits off and flies again, and flies into the setting sun, kind of disappears in the clouds for the moment. Aemon says to you, "I've never seen such a thing. A man of the north speaking to ravens?"
You southerners have never seen civilization. You must understand, the North is much more complex than you would think.
I suppose you're right, Torkel. After all this is said and done, maybe I'll journey north with you. I've lived many long years, but most of them have been in the south. Perhaps the north will be a bit of a change, something I could appreciate with a fresh eye.
And the fresh feel of the cold, it will wake you up. You will not feel so drowsy.
At least for a season. At least for a season. So, what did the bird tell you?
It says there is a cloaked figure coming. I am to follow it. Would you like to go?
That's why we're here. And the friar is obviously listening and falls in line.
Well, let us go then. We will proceed to the south, or follow the raven as it flies somewhat south.
So you see skyward as the sun starts to set, the raven dipping in and out of the clouds, and it comes closer to you, and you see it kind of fluttering kind of further down that road, southwest past Mydfeld, and you can go ahead and spur your horses on and follow that if you'd like.
We will.
So, evening falls, and I'm going to go. Evening falls, and just picture a road, and Foliana Gredi is heading up the road with the river on her left side. She has a lead with a second horse with her, and the stars are starting to twinkle in the sky, And Foliana, up ahead on the road, cresting a hill, you see 3 riders.
She will ride off to the side of the road. Yeah, no, she'll change. She'll just draw her cloak up higher to more to cover her features as much as she can, and just kind of make like she's just quietly tramping along the road, not looking for trouble.
And in the starlight, you see up ahead, you hear a squawk, quack, quack of a crow kind of squawking. Nothing out of the ordinary, but it kind of comes out of the woods and
She just kind of
circles
glances
above
at it.
you. Yeah.
Yeah. So she'll just kind of glance at it out of the corner of her eye. That makes her a little nervous. I think she would have a sense that it was watching her, maybe.
Mm-hmm. And it just circles and circles and circles like you would think a buzzard or some other carrion bird would do. Just stays kind of over you, not close, but maybe 50 feet in the air. Every once in a while, it alights on a branch and squawks, then lights up into the air again. Tarquel, following the bird, gets closer and closer and closer. And you can roleplay Tarquel what you look like now, but kind of on either side of him, Foliana. First was one man you may not recognize, but the other one is upon a white horse and is clearly elvish by the way he rides.
I would assume I'd recognize him pretty quickly.
Yes.
So as she approaches, her first kind of attitude is she's just kind of trying to keep her head down and just sort of be the, pay no mind to me, kind of moving a little off to the side to make room for them to pass. But as she kind of glances up and sees Eamon, she'll stop. And now that she sees him, she's immediately having second thoughts, and almost involuntarily she starts to turn the head of her horse away, like she's maybe going to run.
Eamon's bright gaze kind of lights on her and kind of speaks to the scarred man to his right. Ah, your bloody bird, he was right. Kind of calls out into the night. Foliana, halt! And kind of spurs his horse forward into a trot.
Yeah, Foliana's breathing kind of quickens, and she's experiencing something close to panic, and she's getting a little dizzy. When it was all theoretical of kind of having to deal with all of this, she felt brave and like she could face it. Now she's not so sure. She's not running, but she looks very hesitant and unsure now.
Yeah, Eamon would probably slow his horse up so as not to startle her further, and motions the others to come by. Lady Gredi? Is that you? Alone here on the road?
I am not alone. I brought a horse with me for company.
Horses, it seems.
Well,
Better company than you used to keep.
she kind of, despite it being dark, she squints at Tarquel like she's trying to see Torquel, you live.
Yes, I have been cleansed, Foliana. I am no longer a servant of Zorul.
She stiffens a little. How is this possible?
Friar Linden and much flame is how it is possible. But believe me, it is not without cost.
That seems to be a theme recently.
It has always been a theme. We just may not have paid attention to it. And you know,
Can she see him changed at all? Or is it too dark?
That's up to Tarquel.
well, if you get enough light, you can certainly see Tarquel has burns down his face and
Yeah.
other exposed parts of his body where he was once pasty white. He is now scarred and reddened, very recently burned.
Yeah, it's probably still a little too dark for her to see the extent of it, so I don't think she'd be aware just yet. She says, and you are truly free. How do you know this?
You are always with the existential questions of freedom. No one is free. Ever. The wind is free, but it is not anyone.
Are you free of that demon, Zarul?
He is gone.
And my question is, you know this for a certainty.
It is true.
Who is this friar you speak of? Perhaps I should speak to him as well.
Well, if you wish to speak, he is here, right next to me.
She'll turn her attention to him. She wasn't really paying much attention to before. So it's true, you can free someone from the demon's mark.
The friar comes forth in the starlight and throws back his hood. You can see he's a man with a stern face but kind eyes. He has a white beard, crimson cloak, and a white horse. It is true. This man here to my right stands as living proof. Although everything has a cost.
So I keep hearing.
Tarquel Tarzan nearly died in the attempt, but he is made of stern stuff. His heart is just as unflinching as the north, it seems.
Well, I am from the softer south. I do not know that I would endure such terrible trials as you make it sound.
Perhaps not, he simply says. But then again, Aemon here did not faint in the effort. He was there and assisted in the ritual. It's a sort of thing, elf, that you do not take on lightly. It was done with the full research and support of Fristenfeld. Something that I hear you and your... He doesn't do air quote, but his tone changes. Friends wished harm on, wished to overthrow.
I never wished to overthrow anyone. But yes, I rode with them.
Aemon speaks up. I vouch for the elf, for her name is Foliana Gredi. She comes from a proud family, strong and noble of Southlandia. Although she is somewhat wayward at the time, she, it seems, has found the truth and shirked her new quote unquote friends.
She is rather haughty, but she is not evil.
Well, I will consider what must be done then, Friar.
The friar turns to Torgal. Turns to Aemon. If you two vouch for her, I see no reason that she cannot be in our company. Yet she is not the quarry we seek.
What quarry do you seek? Perhaps I can assist.
Aemon says at this point. We seek the son of the king, Foliana. It seems he has plans for him, though I know not what.
I do not think you'll find him. He has departed to go his own way.
Aemon and the friar kind of give
it-
concerned looks to each other.
It seems our odd little fellowship has broken almost before it began. He was much disillusioned with the lies of our host, and now seeks a way to rid himself of his influence.
Is that so? Do you know any details of what he plans to do next?
I do not. He only said that he was going to seek his true master. I'm not sure he used those exact words, but he was seeking the one who can release him, the hold of Zarul on him. Through foul sorceries, no doubt.
There are rumors about the king's son, about the deals he has made in the past, that he once traveled far to the north and east of here. There's an ancient burial ground, an ancient cathedral known as Majdrut. What happened there is not as terrible as what happened down in New Vanhar, but there are whispered rumors of powers there that are greater than both elf and man. Perhaps these rumors of the king's child is true.
I would not be surprised, though I have not spoken of that with him.
And the elf and friar kind of exchange glances again. So I suppose the decision, Lady Gredi, do we first track down the son of the king, or bring you back to Fürstenfeld to rid you of this plague?
She says at the moment, the weight of his presence is bearable. So if you wish to seek him out, perhaps we should do that first.
The sooner he is redeemed, the better for him.
Aemon gives a little bit of a snort at that.
Do you think he is beyond redemption, Aemon Giltonian?
He does not have the heart of the North, Torgal. He is the son of a king, no doubt spoiled from birth, making pacts with devils to gain power. If he's able to withstand what you did, well, I suppose he deserves to be saved. And if he does not withstand it, then I suppose he shall perish.
I suspect he will not wish to cooperate with your methods. He will seek his own if he has indeed, as you suggest, made a deal with another demon, I'm sure he'll fear the friar's hand will exercise both that reside in him and not just the one. In which case, I'm sure he would refuse your assistance. Or I strongly suspect.
But I have promised the king to go and offer the assistance to him.
Well, I'm sure he'll be polite. Shall we go?
Perhaps we should spend the night first. It is awfully late.
It is.
Is this all right with you, Friar? Or do we need to move quickly?
It is quite all right with me, Tarquel. You should rest. You are still wounded.
Oh, it is nothing.
Alright, so they can kind of camp for the night and rest up. 3-point scratch. Oh yeah, he's back to 3. Not bad. Alright, so we're gonna move on to Terrask as he's back on the road. And I'm guessing you said you would kind of stay off of the road, kind of heading through the forest on the way, or at least taking paths of some sort.
Definitely not going to be on the road, because that's a good way for me to be recognized.
So you head off into the forest, and that first morning breaks. You're on your horse. There are some old trails through the forest as the sun rises in the east, and Sir Carl has most of his armor off at this point. You can hear it click-clacking on the side of his horse as you kind of trot down the path.
Did I take him?
I thought you took Sir Carl, right?
No, that's Tarbin's man.
Oh, you're right. You left yours, and
I did. That man is not a man anymore.
You're by yourself. Then, whispering in the trees.
Yeah, Julius just travels in the trees carefully, taking in the sights more than he may have when he was more on task and not what he assumes to be considered a traitor or fugitive. He's looking around and didn't appreciate the countryside as much as he maybe should have.
As you go through the trees, that voice in the back of your brain starts to speak up a little bit. It's not Zorld. Further and further you get away from New Vanhar, the quieter and more distant it becomes. And the voice in the back of his brain says, "How does it feel, Lord Terrask, to be on your own again? Well, not particularly on your own, but with only your shadow by your side."
Quiet. He looks around. I will admit there was a certain comfort in company, but this is not a path easily walked.
You've always tread the path of solitude, Julius. Users of magic and arcane powers are few and far between these days. No one wants to associate with one who has made pacts with devils, as they say.
People are afraid. Rightfully so, it seems. but fear should not keep one from pursuing one's desires.
No. But on the other hand, Lord Julius, perhaps you lean too heavily on your powers I have bestowed upon you. There are other powers, other skills befitting a man to know how to hunt, how to fight, how to navigate, how to love, how to perform in court. These things, perhaps they have escaped you. Perhaps you should be alone for a time, even alone from me.
I do not think I could go back to that way. Being able to do nothing, excelling in nothing. Being the first and only born and being useless to my father. Not that it matters much now what he thinks of me.
Who knows what he thinks of you, Lord Julius? Often what we tell ourselves is only a shadow of reality. Perhaps he loves his son, perhaps he hates him. Perhaps he wants to redeem your soul, or maybe lock you up in a cell for eternity. No matter, you are still his son, and he has appearances to keep up. If you ever do return to him, remember your initial aim. Remember our goals, Lord Terrask.
Our goals align still. My father, as he is still in the way.
In the way. In the way. And as you kind of go deeper into the forest, you can feel the temperature seem to drop. And even though the sun is bright overhead, you see dark clouds kind of roll in, almost like they're coming from the mountains. But the weather is fair otherwise. This is some sort of devilry. And then, just like that, you are completely and totally alone in the woods. You lift up your hand and try to shoot a bolt at a tree nearby, and there's nothing there. You feel wary. You feel the horse under your hips. You feel the aches and pains as a normal man would. And you feel yourself totally alone as these dark clouds start to roll in.
Julius looks at the clouds and looks at his hands and he scowls and presses forward, feeling pain renewed, not something he's used to.
Why don't you give me a survival check at let's do 12. Okay. So you do not have advantage on this. So you have to spend the night there in the woods. As the temperature drops in the distance at night, you hear the howls of wolves. Tell me how you spend the night and what's going through your mind is you don't even have your shadow side to speak with.
So he makes a very makeshift and poorly made camp, obviously not being a huntsman or trailsman of any note, and just barely shelter if there were to be a storm. And it is a restless night. He looks all about and feels fear for the first time in a while, hearing wolves bay in the distance, thinking of what he could possibly do. Has very little skill with a blade, never was very good with it. Keeps his dagger close to him throughout the night and sleeps little, if at all, as he spends the night in subdued horror, looking all about in the pale moonlight.
Morning time does come, though, and as you rise, you almost reflexively maybe reach for something to start a flame with your skills, but there's nothing there again. Your fingers are frozen. It's hard to even straighten them out. And as you climb up on your horse, you spend that whole next day scrambling up and down small hills, down embankments, struggling in the woods to find your way northeast. And give me a constitution check at 12. And by midday, you emerge out onto the plain here, near the Pious Marches, just kind of south of the Abbey. And now you are exhausted. Which means basically, I think exhausted means that you take the lower of the two rolls. It's the opposite until after you rest for a full day.
So everything with disadvantage.
Everything with disadvantage,
Okay.
yeah. Everything with disadvantage. So you come out, and the fact that the demon has forsaken you in the dark of night in the woods has very much made it clear how frail and fragile you are without his help. And tell me the self-doubt and that sort of thing that's going through your mind as you... Are you just a spoiled brat rich kid who's grown up in court with plush furniture until you made the deal with this devil? Or are you made of sterner stuff?
So Julius, as he comes out on the plains, is completely decimated. He feels beyond tired every moment that he is... Every blink that he has, he wishes for sleep, just a comfortable bed. Maybe he's in a dream or something, and he looks around. There is no bed in sight. It's just the Pious Marches, the plains, and he begins to reflect on all his learning. He's lettered, of course. He always had his books and his smarts, but he rarely left Fristenfeld, rarely left the keep even, to do anything until his escort to the mage route. And every fiber of his being told him he needed to take the deal, that he would amount to nothing without it. And he's starting to wonder if that's true as he struggles even to just travel a few days along the marches, looking, seeing his hands feeling feverish, tired, wanting to give up. There's only one thing that keeps him going, is that perhaps things might go back to where they were, or he might find something in himself to keep making this journey. Heavy heart, breathing heavily, even on horseback, he forces himself on, slowly but forward.
As you ride out onto that plain, the wind is just whipping at you, and there's still nothing, no evidence of your patron back. You are alone, and as you merge out onto the Pious Marches, you see almost like in this picture here, these ancient weapons still in the ground. So that battle that was described to you way down the catacombs seems like years ago, but it was probably only months ago. And forlorn, you kind of make your way out across the plains. Perhaps a mile of the way away, though, kind of to the east and or to the west and south of you, a group of travelers ride on horseback, and they are fresh, having slept the night before and then travel on a road and caught up to you. And ahead of them flies a crow, squawking in the air. Julius, it flies overhead to you and kind of circles around and then flies back over Tarquel and Foliana. And Tarquel and Foliana let you kind of RP that as you travel across the plains.
I imagine Foliana, with her good eyesight, would see Julius first. Maybe Eamon would. She's actually a little disappointed they've caught up to him. She's was after their conversation, she was expecting he would probably just want to do his own thing, but now that they've found him, she will point and say, "There is the king's son now."
Yes, that is Julius. Shall we go to him?
That is why we came, to make him the offer.
Aemon and Friar Linden just kind of draw up their horses.
How can you turn down redemption?
I think he seeks his own method, but we shall see. It is his decision to make. Oh, and in the morning, when Foliana could see the true toll that it took on Tarquel, her resolve to perhaps do this has waned considerably. She can imagine herself scarred and ruined like that, and that is not a fate she wishes for herself. So she's a little quieter than she might have been otherwise, and certainly makes no conversation with Friar Linden.
It's truly not as painful as it looks. Just a sunburn.
She says, "You were never particularly handsome before, if you'll forgive me. The cost to you was not great."
Well, sometimes the cost is worth it. Sometimes it's not. Perhaps you prefer demons inside of you.
We
I
shall
would
see.
rather have scars on the outside.
So it looks like Tarquel is riding on ahead. Foliana charge ahead. Julius, she'll let Tarquel go.
Torquil, as you canter up, you can see the condition that Julius is in.
Julius, what is the matter?
I'm tired and I'm cold. But you look a bit worse for wear.
Yes, I am much worse for wear. But I have come for you. I have promised to bring you back to your father.
Julius's hand will rest on his palm of his dagger. So you've become a dog at his beck and call?
Yes.
I do admire your honesty, Tarquel. I'm afraid you'll have to go back empty-handed. I'm not interested in slavering in my father's dungeons. Thank you very much.
Well, then take out the dagger and stab me, and make it at least look good.
Julius looks at him. Nods and will pull his dagger out and give him a stab. Not something fatal.
Okay.
You didn't need that eye.
So you guys are both on horseback, and Julius, the scene is like kind of pans out, and he just like Julius is listing and just stabs at him.
I will help him and grab his hand and push it in far.
Give me an attack there.
I will give him advantage.
No, he gets a disadvantage.
I will still help.
It should have rolled. I don't know if it did for you guys.
It did.
I
I was
see
just
it.
checking my armor class.
17.
I believe I
That's a
failed.
Torkel will swing his hand in the air at Julius. He won't hit him. Next, he's ready for the next attack.
Just like so, he's like stabs at him, just kind of bats it away. Foliana, Eamon, and the Friar are just kind of looking on, and Friar and Eamon are frowning, obviously.
Yeah, Foliana just watches, curious thing.
Julius, upon trying to strike with the dagger, will actually rear his horse up and try to ride, trying to spur it forward.
Give me animal handling,
Oh God!
opposed by Tarquel. No, you don't need to roll it twice there. So
Oh.
it doesn't look like his Tarquel just anywhere you try to go, he kind of heads you off.
Torkel just grabs him off of his horse and puts him on Torkel's horse.
I'll let you guys RP that unless you want to fight him.
I have to.
I will put you behind me so you have a better chance of hitting me this time.
I have to try to fight him off. What do you want for that, Bo?
He tries to stab him again.
Oh boy.
It's 11.
Nope.
You must push harder. Look for a little fold, a place where it's easier to get the knife through. Try again, or we will have to go back. And you don't want to rot in those jail cells, do you?
Julius is starting to get frustrated. You can see the creases on his face fold in. He just looks angry, and all the futility of just trying to stab at Torkel over and over again.
So narratively, what's happening? Like, what does this look like? You just batting him away like a child?
No, I pick him up and put him on the horse behind me, and I'm riding back slowly as he's stabbing and stabbing.
Eventually, he gets back, and you just continue to try to get him because eventually he's just going to stick it in your ribs, Torkel.
This is how it must be.
I don't know that I ever am going to hit him.
That's D&D.
You
for
hit him once.
No, I'm on disadvantage.
He's exhausted.
Even behind him on the horse.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We can say.
I mean, eventually he's.
We can say right. That's why I said is Torkel like? Are you actively trying to like put him in an arm lock or something, or like
Nope.
wrap him up like a child, or
Nope.
not? Because I would
Nope.
at least say you would get him, at least one of those times.
He deserves to stab me a few times.
Okay, so you do get a shot like underneath your right shoulder blade. So give yourself like 5 damage there. And as he kind of rolls back on the horse, Foliana, the friar, and Aemon look on. It's almost as if there's this giant man atop a horse behind him, a child with a needle jabbing at him. And the friar looks at Foliana and says, This thing is the son of a king?
He does not always look quite so pathetic. I have seen him more dignified.
And as Tarquel kind of rears his horse around, comes to a stop in front of them. What's going on now? He's still trying to stab him.
Foliana says to Julius, "What has become of you, Julius? You are not yourself."
I am alone, full and truly.
Truly? How did you manage that?
I ask that question to the wind and it gives me no answer back.
The wind will always tell. Just wait.
Foliana kind of glances sideways at the friar and says, "Perhaps the wind will free me as well, then."
This is all highly irregular, the friar says, wondering why Julius is not using any of his powers that he's heard of. Torkel, bind him. We will take him back to Fristenfeld.
Let's take him back, but bind him? How would that look? It would be embarrassing. It would embarrass the king. No, we can't bind him.
Foliana will ride over next to Torkel and do her best to pry the dagger out of Julius's hands then.
As you ride up upon him, it seems like a mist slowly then quickly rolls over the plains, nearly obscuring everything. You can see each other, but everything else is like completely obscured. And Julius, you feel your power start to come back, but not quite yet.
Julius will vaguely resist Foliana, trying to pull the dagger away from him, but will ultimately relent, trying to show a look of defeat and weariness, and feeling that power welling within him.
Foliana just says, "Don't be a fool, Julius. Something's happened." Your friend has abandoned you?
It's all lost. All of it.
Both friends?
I did not know he had so many friends.
I hear not the rule. I hear not the other. As I said, alone, full and truly. What a fool I've been.
And you are blessed.
Blessed. This is the state in which I appear blessed to you.
You are free.
Free, as the others say, bind me. There is no freedom to be had. Not with any of these, he points to the friar, or their blessings.
Friar Linden kind of trots out close to you, Julius, and so does the elf. Says, "Your father has sent us to fetch you. No doubt you have erred, but look at you now. There is still hope, Lord Terrask. Come with us. You will assume the throne eventually, but you still have much to learn. You can't go it alone. No one can."
I need not my father's help nor yours. Let me down and on my way.
I would, but I'm afraid you would starve to death. I think you should come and find redemption.
If I were to starve, it is my own fault.
That is true. But you will not starve. You will come and eat redemption with me.
It sounds like a very cold and agonizing meal. I require no redemption. I will be on my way. Let me down.
If I let you down, these others will take you. They will not be so gentle as Tarquel.
Julius will look at the friar and Eamon. Do I feel as though I am becoming stronger?
You are. Then the fog starts to roll back as well. You are starting to get stronger and stronger, though.
I check my hands. Do they glow?
They're starting to glow. But as you check your hands again, the fog rolls all the way back, and you realize that you're in the Pious Marches, where that ancient battle has taken place, and that ancient army that perished there that you refused to help seems to have risen all about you. And so, while you squabble in the middle of the fields, you see skeletons like crawling out of the ground, and some of them are like these skeletal horses. So everywhere you look, they're just all around you and start to close in.
It appears that we have bigger concerns.
What did you bring upon us?
I am powerless. How could I manage such a thing?
So it's as if we are suddenly in a different place?
No, you're still there. Just the fog has
Oh, the
receded.
fog has and revealed these things now.
Yep.
Well, it's going to take Foliana a moment to take it all in, but once she does, she'll kind of snap to into fighting mode, I guess, and grab her bow and dismount.
We'll probably end it there, Kate, unless somebody has something else to say.
No, indeed.
This is the army that could have been yours instead of the demons. But they would have been much fairer if you would have helped the elves.
A bit less moss on the bones.
Yeah, less moss.
I still find them repulsive.
Yes. All right, cool.
I guess the the black sheep is going back home. I don't know what to do with Tarbin.
Yeah.
Everyone deserves